in large part because I've been super selfish in talking to people that I admire, who inspire me, who I learn from, and who I like a lot. And so who better to have with me today than my friend Tonya Veasey, who is the president and CEO of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. So Tonya, welcome.
Thank you. And I like you a lot too. So thank you for having me. This will be fun. This will be fun.
This is going to be fun. So full disclosure, I am a newish member of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation board, which is, as I said, Tonya's organization. And full disclosure, Tonya and her husband, Mark Veasey, congressman from Texas, are just dear people to us. So Tonya, let's talk about Juneteenth, or as someone said to me last night, can we at least call it June 19th? But maybe we'll work on that. But I know you and the congressman have a particularly special relationship in history with, was it Mother Opal Lee? So tell me about your perspective on Juneteenth and tell me about Mother Lee.
Well, first of all, Mother Opal Lee, I've known Mother Opal Lee for probably over 20 years. And every time I see Mother Opal Lee, she's talking about Juneteenth. And so she has been an amazing advocate for not only educating young people and seasoned people about the importance of Juneteenth, but this was something that had been very near and dear to her heart. And I just heard about her story. So part of the reason why she is so just amazing is when she was 12 years old, a group of white supremacists vandalized and burned her home down on June 19th, 1939, I believe. And so she took that tragic moment in her life and became this advocate to educate people about the importance of June 19th. I'll say I'm a Texan, so, June 19th started in Texas, and I've known about June 19th all my life because my family, it was a celebration to really celebrate Black culture. So we would go to the local park and we would have games and just celebrate freedom. And so I'm just excited that the nation gets to celebrate with us and be a part of that celebration. And I cannot think of a better time for us to have passed such an important piece of legislation and to acknowledge June 19th, or Juneteenth, as we say, moving forward.
So I love that because, as you know, I struggle with Juneteenth. I worry that it gives the nation a break that it doesn't deserve, that we really should be spending time dealing with the root systemic causes of racism in this country. But I've evolved a bit in my thinking, and what you just said has me evolving even more, because it should be a celebration of Blackness. It should be a celebration of our history. And I know that in Texas, that's what it's always been. And so I will continue to evolve my thinking, but at the same time, holding everyone speak to the fire that yes, but yes, and it also has to be everything else that we've talked about. So, but I love that story, and I'd heard about it, and I didn't realize that you and Mark were so close to it, but that's a lovely story. And to your point, how a difficult situation breeds beauty.
Exactly.
How a difficult situation breeds beauty, which is a little bit of, as I was thinking last night about the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. So I've been known the CBC since I started my career. And I've known the foundation, obviously, for a number of reasons, but it is mostly known for the legislative weekend. But take some time to tell our audience, what really is CBCF about? Why were you conceived? What's your mission? What's your vision? And what have you accomplished that you feel really good about?
Yeah, and so that's the $100 question. What is the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation? And everyone knows us as ALC Weekend or CBC Weekend. But the CBC was formed about 45 years ago by CBC members at that time. And we are a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that is independent from the CBC. Now we have a board in which you mentioned that you serve on our board, and on our board is a combination of corporate members, private members, and CBC members. But the foundation mission is to develop global Black leaders, and we do that through our internship and our fellowship program. We place more interns on Capitol Hill than any other organization. We also inform the public on policy and issues that affect the Black community. And we, in addition to that, we educate. And we educate people on voting rights and on other issues as well that affect Black people. So we develop leaders, we inform individuals on policy issues, and then we educate you as well. What we are not is we are not a political organization. You can be a Democrat or a Republican and be a part of this organization. But we do work in partnership with the CBC members, but we are not a part of the CBC in that sense of the CBC runs the foundation.
Tonya, talk more about the internship, because I think one of the things that you and I bonded on early in our careers and in our friendship was our mutual belief that we've got to focus on our future. And focus on our future is identifying that talent and preparing them for what's ahead, and to blaze territories and paths that we're doing our best to do, but we've got to have somebody to hand it over to. So talk about the internship, and if you have any that you can list, any great case studies or examples of some interns who have gone on to do great things.
Oh, wow. So I will say our internship and our fellowship program is probably the most exciting thing that we do at the foundation. I mean, the policy work and the research work is also exciting, but truly, our internship program places individuals on Capitol Hill, and we just recently started what we call a C-suite program, a pathway to the C-suite as well, which is more of our corporate program as well. But to be honest with you, we knew we had a problem with creating a pipeline, and there was a lack of diversity on Capitol Hill, and it still is a lack of diversity on Capitol Hill, to be quite honest with you. And so our mission is to address that and make sure that we have a strong pipeline of individuals that have an opportunity to work on Capitol Hill. I don't have the statistics, but we know that a significant amount of our interns and fellows that go through our program stay on Capitol Hill and are hired full-time and become chief of staff. Congresswoman Lauren Underwood was a CBC intern, and now she's a congressperson.
I didn't know that.
Yes, and she's a huge advocate for our program as well. And she will tell you that had she not gone through this program, she would have never thought of coming back and actually being a member of Congress. And so success stories, I can't tell you how many times I'm in a meeting at the, with another member's office, or speaking to our corporate sponsors, and a young, talented Black person that works there comes up to me and they're like, Miss Veasey, I started my career as an intern or a fellow. So I see it all the time. What I love about this program is I also see where our interns and our fellows have gone through the program and they get a big job, later on and they become advocates for us. And they introduce their company or their institution to the foundation, and so it becomes a great opportunity. We're in the process of starting an alumni network where the hope is we will create this network and continue to nurture our alumni and create a pipeline of more advanced opportunities. So we are excited about being able to be a part of the solution. I just don't know where they are. We can't find, anyone. So I'm saying we have the talent, and we're willing to train them to be great leaders, and place them in places where they are, I'm going to say, invited to participate.
Yes, and prepared. Prepared. So you said so much, and I have many reactions to it. One, let's follow up on a more rigorous official relationship between CBCF and Edelman, because I'd like some of that talent that you are developing. So let's put that in the parking lot. The other thing, though, that you talked about when you talked about like working on the Hill, I did an event. What was it? A punch bowl event with Anna Palmer's group earlier in the year. And one of my sessions was like one of 3 sessions was with diverse talent that was on the Hill. And what moved me about these, in this case was all women, what moved me about this very diverse group of women, and diverse racially, ethnically, and politically and ideologically, which was very important to me to have that balance. And they all felt like they were called to do this work. They felt like they were called because, I was recruiting, and I was like, hey, do you want to come work at Edelman? And they were like, we love working on the Hill, and we feel like we can make such a difference on the Hill, and we feel like our voices are heard, but it's still such a small number that are in leadership positions, and that continues to amaze me. The other thing that you said that propels me to shift a little bit and talk about corporate America, because you said, this concept of I can't find them, and I don't know where the talent is, but you have one of the most remarkable, not me, but one of the most remarkable boards assembled that I've seen in a really, really long time. And their corporate, it's a who's who of corporate America is on your board. Talk to me about what you think the obligation is of corporate America, of business and brands, in terms of looking at not just racial equity, but equity in access and opportunity issues across the board. So government has a role, but for us, business has a real role. And like, again, you've got that who's who on the board. Tell me what you think their responsibility is to advance the mission.
Yeah, great question. I think as it relates to our own board, and then our corporate sponsors as well. And we have over 300 sponsors that we work with on a daily basis. And I will tell you, one of the things I have said to our corporate sponsors and those on our board is that we will, it's great for you to donate to the foundation. That's wonderful. I will take your money. Yes, I will. However, we need to really have a true conversation about what does equity and inclusion really look like within your organization. And so, and we'll talk a little bit about this later, I hope, but we launched our National Racial Equity Initiative.
Oh no, Tonya, talk about this now. It was on my list. I love this initiative.
So we launched our National Racial Equity Initiative, and we mainly launched it because of the number of phone calls that we were receiving from corporate America saying, we want to help, right? And so this was during the time of the killing of George Floyd, of Breonna Taylor, and for the foundation, what I wanted to do is to make sure that we were also relevant in the conversation through our mission. And so we launched our National Racial Equity Initiative, and we launched it to focus on 3 things. Number one, we wanted to make sure that we're going to go back to the pipeline, right? We wanted to make sure that we were very intentional and making sure that we were creating a pipeline for those who want to get into good trouble, as the great John Lewis would say, right? And so we offered what we call our John Lewis Fellows. And those fellows are put on Capitol Hill to address disparities that African Americans face in partnership with the CBC. How that affects corporate America is we also want these same fellows to be considered for positions in corporate America in regard to DEI or whatever that may look like, right? You create diversity at the table, you have diversity of thought, you have much better strategy. And so we have been really working closely with our corporate members to say, yes, we will take your $1 million donation toward the foundation, but we also want to partner with you and create best practices, et cetera. So we created a task force. And so that's the second part of it. We created this task force, and it was very intentional that the task force did not leave out corporate America.
Yes.
The task force is members of Congress, it's advocates in its corporate America as well, coming together and looking at systemic racism and how do we solve it at a corporate level, at a business level, at an advocacy level, and at a policy level. And then the last piece of the NREI initiative was to look at removing financial burdens from individuals who want to, graduate from school and get into, again, good trouble, but they can't afford to. Social worker or a teacher or a criminal justice major. So we wanted to make sure, so we created a scholarship fund specifically for those individuals who could demonstrate that by removing this burden would allow them to take on maybe positions that they would otherwise not be able to take on because they had student debt. And so we tried to be very creative. But the last thing I'll say, Lisa, is for us, when it comes to corporate America, we've started to have very direct and intentional conversations with them to use their power, their spending power, their influence to help remove barriers that Black folks face every day. Right.
Okay, without knowing it, like you literally just did the Edelman research. So I love this program. I'm really glad that we're talking about it because I think it will be material in terms of how we change things. But we have done 3 basic pieces of research on racial equity and the responsibility of business and brands in this conversation. And one of them was very much user influence. The second counsel was advocate and educate, but you actually have to educate yourself before you can advocate. 3 was get your own house in order. And 4, and you just talked about this, know that there will be repercussions if you don't. Because our latest research shows that people are making decisions about whether they buy or whether they walk in terms of how a brand is responding to this issue. And very importantly, people are also very much looking at, as an employee, I'm not going to work in this company. I'm not going to work with this brand unless I feel it. So I think it's critically important. We have a question that I love. So as the mom of 2 daughters who got involved with local politics as teens, I love this program. Cheers, Tonya. Are there any efforts to connect CBC Foundation's work to elementary and middle school kids to get younger kids politically engaged? Talk about pipeline. Yeah.
So, unfortunately, we really don't. We start to introduce seniors to the CBCF through a scholarship program that we have for high school seniors. There are many organizations in the DC area that focuses on middle school and high school and advocacy, where we will be an ally and partner with them and bring them into our office and talk about what we do. But we don't have a program in specific to that particular group. So to answer that question, but there are several. I think you can do research, and there are several that will bring young folks who are interested in advocacy and introduce them, and many of them become our pipeline.
Yes,
Yeah,
right.
they then want to do an internship or fellowship, or they start to apply for scholarships. But we start mainly at the college age because they can work, and we want to introduce them to the Hill, into our professional development program that we have.
Yeah, I love the question because you talk about pipeline. This generation is so impressive. These young people are so impressive. So to get them even earlier on and to get them into the queue to then go to and get a CBCF internship or fellowship, I love the concept of that. Tonya, when you were talking though, it made me think also about an issue that we've been really trying to look at. And like this is Pride Month. And because so much of what we're talking about is equity. And while I don't subscribe to the months, because I think it diminishes and lessens the impact of any group and their contribution to our culture, but I accept it for these purposes. Where do you see the intersectionality of those two communities, of our brothers and sisters and us as allies, and then the African American community? What are the intersections? What are the opportunities? What are the challenges, if there are any?
Yeah, that's a great question. A couple of thoughts that I have, and again, I think you used the word ally, right? And although we focus on the Black community, but as you know, we come in different shades and experiences and all of that. And so our our brothers and sisters are very much so a part of the work that we do. And so we advocate, or not advocate, but we educate around the trans,
Yeah.
community, and some of the experiences that they are having with the violence, the discrimination. It all comes back to our mission, right? It all comes back to what we are fighting for. At the foundation. I mean, we don't discriminate against anyone. As a matter of fact, during our annual legislative conference, we have a couple of breakout sessions that talk about different issues that our brothers and sisters face as well. And so to me, it's all about creating those allies, and it's all about educating the community.
Yeah.
About their different experiences.
Yeah, I think the foundation and I think the Black community writ large can do so much more when it comes to the intersectionality of these things, and also like not forcing people to choose. Like you can be Black and queer, you can be Black and trans, you can be Black and whatever, but all of these issues are about equity. They're all about access. They're all about opportunity. They're all about anti-discrimination. And so I think that there's so much more that all of us can be doing to advance our mutual goals.
And I find that it's a lot about the lack of education.
Right.
So in the LGBTQ community, our goal is to educate.
Yeah.
And so we are very intentional in looking at those topics. And so, yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. They're giving me the countdown model. So I have to make this my last question, but clearly, we could keep going on. One of the things that I was enamored with when I first met you, when you were running your own business, and as I've watched you as the president of the foundation, is your ability to bring the best of everybody to the table. And for me, so much of that is rooted in trust. Your board members trust you, the members trust you, the corporations that are your partners trust you. And for us at Edelman, trust is like foundational. It's for everything that we do. So how do you build that trust? How do you keep that trust? And what's your counsel for everyone else that's trying to do the same?
Oh, great question. I would say, number one, by keeping your word. For me, I think in particular at the foundation, making sure that we were all focused on the right things and the same thing, right? Which is our mission. And that as we make decisions, as I guide the board or educate the board, I'm doing it through the lens, and we're all doing it through the same lens. And that is, what is our mission and what are our core values? And so when I have to deliver bad news or good news, we have developed that trust based on, that Tonya is focused on our mission, and I know what her core values are, and she knows what my core values are. And I communicate and I develop those relationships through that lens. And so for me, I think it was easy. It's always been easy for me to develop that connection because I established the rules of engagement from the beginning. And for me at the foundation, the rules of engagement were, we are a mission-driven organization with core values, and this is what this looks like. And so I can make decisions, and we can make decisions together based on that. And then the part of keeping my word, I show up. When I say I'm going to show up, I stay focused on the things that I say I'm going to stay focused on. Because of that, people know what to expect.
Yes. Yeah.
That's simple.
Yeah, I love that, and I can attest to it as somebody who interacts with you personally and professionally. That, and I do think that fundamentally trust is about establishing expectations that you have of each other, and then meeting those commitments. And when you meet the commitments, you do establish trust. I'm going to sneak in two things really quickly because you said something earlier that is something that I've been thinking about a lot. And you talked about the money that corporations give. And I have seen you handle these situations, which is why I think you have established trust with so many people that you engage with. But it's more than the money. It's more than the money. And I think some of the counsel that we've been saying to people is, yes, you should put something on your website that talks about your commitment to equity. Yes, you should give money to an organization that you think is advancing equity and access and inclusion issues, but it's got to be more than that. And I think that that's what we're missing in many cases, that are these corporate leaders, these CEOs have an opportunity to so greatly enrich their experience by getting involved, by learning more, by educating themselves, and them doing their own personal advocacy, because that's the only way you can really advance something. Yes, you can write a check, and I'm not diminishing that, but if you're not giving from here and from here, it's lessened. It's lessened. This says, how can people join CBCF?
Well, we're not a membership-driven organization.
So probably more how they could support.
But again, you can definitely support the organization. We have tons of events and programs that are virtual now that we will continue. So you don't have to come to DC to participate in our issue sessions and our brain trust. But again, we're not a membership-driven organization, but if you know of any talented interns or fellows or any students that are looking for scholarship dollars, I encourage everyone to please spread the word. We gave over $3 million this year in scholarship dollars. We usually place over 100 interns on Capitol Hill a year. And so there's plenty of opportunity for people to support the foundation by spreading the word.
All right. I'm going to give you the last word. What do you want us to know, think, believe, feel, etc.? How can you all have been advancing the mission of equity for a very long time. It's new for many people, and we welcome all of those new members to the mission. But as an organization and as a family that has been advancing equity for as long as that I've known you and known of you, what's next? what counsel would you give people who want to join in this cause, and what's next for the foundation?
I think for the foundation, of course, the mission continues, right, of developing Black leaders and educating and informing the public. What I would leave us with is the importance of you being engaged. Mm-hmm. There's a lot that is going on right now on Capitol Hill with voting rights and infrastructure bills. And I am always surprised that we don't know that.
Yeah.
And so stay informed, stay engaged. The foundation is a great place to start. And hold your elected officials, if they're local, state, or federal, accountable. And I think we will move this community further by doing that.
And move this national agenda, because this is not, I say this all the time, what Richard Wright interviewed in 1940 when asked, what about the Black problem in America? And I'm paraphrasing, he was like, this isn't a Black problem, this is an American problem. And I think by continuing the work of the foundation and supporting, we are helping to address this American problem that has a negative impact on all of us. I am so glad you were here. I know how busy you are, and it was lovely to be able to spend a half an hour with you, and tell everybody I said hi, and I will talk to you soon. And thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you. Love you.
Love you too.